Hi everyone, I'm Carol Keller, independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Illinois in the United States, and my video today is part of my bundle bonus using the Cottage Wreath bundle. So for the month of July, I will be featuring the Cottage Wreath bundle, and if you purchase the bundle from me before the end of the month, I will send you for free the components to make the card that you see in today's video. So check back during the month for other videos. And I also will provide a PDF that has ideas using this and other bundles this month. So if you are interested in that, please reach out to me and I will give you the host code that you need to use to order the bundle. All right, let's get started with the project. Here is the card that I designed for my bundle bonus for this month. And again, you will receive the components to make this card for free if you purchase the bundle from me, and I will include a host code in the description, or I will add it to this video. I also made it in a different colorway, so actually you have your option. I will send you either one, whichever you prefer. This is Blushing Bride, which is the one we will be making today, and this is Calypso Coral. So I'm going to put this aside and we'll get started. Starting as usual with a basic white card base. Standard A2 or A4. And I'm using the Gingham Cottage Designer Series paper, which is part of the same suite. And I have cut it to the size of the card front. So for an A2 card, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. For an A4 card, it would be 10.5 by 14.9. And I'm grabbing my multi-purpose liquid glue to put it on, so that I've got some wiggle room and can make sure that it fits exactly on the card front. All right, so now that we have that adhered, actually we're going to keep it handy, and I have cut this beautiful die from the Blossoming Happiness dies to use on the card. And I cut it out of vellum. The piece of vellum is 2 1/2 by 4 1/4 or 6.4 centimeters by 11. That's large enough then to fit the die. And I did want to say this die also, it's kind of a 3D because it cuts it out, but there are also pieces that will pop up. And the way that I got them to do that was to take my Take Your Pick tool and poke through all of them from the back. So if there are stray pieces that didn't come out when you cut the die, they will come out now as well. But it gives it that wonderful 3D effect. And so I'm not sure how well you can see it on camera, but now there are little leaves that have popped up because I did that. So the way to adhere to the card, because we don't want to put adhesive on the back, glue dots or anything, even multi-purpose liquid glue will show. So I have strategically placed the other parts of the card to help hold the vellum down. So I cut a strip from, again, that Gingham Cottage Designer Series paper. This is 1/2 inch by 5 1/2 or 1.3 centimeters by 14.9. And I took a strip of Blushing Bride cardstock. This was cut at 1/2 inch by 5 inches or 1.3 centimeters by 13 centimeters. And I ran it through the Hive 3D embossing folder, which is fabulous. And so the way I put it together, I'm going to put some adhesive on the back of this strip of Designer Series paper, just using my tape runner, my seal, Stampin' seal. And I'm going to lay the vellum this way with the long end right on the edge of that DSP, centering it, just eyeballing it. And then we're going to lay the whole thing on the card front, leaving just a little bit of an edge on the left for that other Designer Series paper to peek through. And then originally I put this on with my Stampin' seal, and you can see it's a little bit crooked because it stretches it out a little bit, and I don't want to do that. So this time I'm going to use my multi-purpose liquid glue, and we'll put some of that on the back because it won't change the shape then of the strip, because I don't want it changed. I don't want it curved or elongated or anything like that. I'm going to take my wonderful new tweezers. They are part of a set in the mini catalog for embossing. And we're going to lay the strip right here. And the set also includes a tray to catch your embossing powder, an embossing buddy to get rid of static on your project before you emboss, and a brush. And it also includes these wonderful reverse tweezers. I have been having a lot of fun getting to know how to use them. All right, now we're going to do some stamping. So I have a square of Granny Apple Green. It's 3 inches by 3 inches, or 7.6 centimeters by 7.6 centimeters. And I have another scrap of Blushing Bride. And this one is 2.5 by 1.5, or 6.5 by 4 centimeters. And I'm going to first pull my Granny Apple Green ink. Move the Blushing Bride out of the way for the moment. And I have this wonderful wreath from the Cottage Wreaths stamp set. And I love this. This is a distinctive stamp, and you'll see all the layers of color, which we do end up covering up a lot of them, making it more 3D. And I'm just going to stamp that because we're going to cut it out in a minute. But look at all those layers of color, lighter and medium and darker. I just think that's such a pretty, pretty stamp. And then that's all we need for the Granny Apple Green. And then for this one, we're going to stamp our sentiment that we're going to cut out with a die from the Splendid Stems die set. So first, like I said, we're going to stamp our sentiment. So I'm bringing in Highland Heather. And we're going to stamp Some People Just Make Life Better. And I'm doing it toward the top because it's going to be toward the top of our bowl, if you will, our tag that we're using today. And then while we have the Highland Heather, we're going to do a little more stamping. And so I'm going to just bring in a very tiny scrap. I didn't even measure it, and it's definitely larger than we need. And we're going to stamp that bow again with wonderful shadings of color because it's a distinctive stamp. We'll stamp that, and we're going to cut both of these out. But first, we're going to finish our stamping. And so on the inside of the card, we're going to stamp another sentiment, and this one comes from the Threw It Together stamp set. It says, "Sending you this paper hug." I love that. This is one of my favorites. And so we're done with the Highland Heather, but we do have a little more stamping. On the inside, we're taking one of the leaf stamps from the Cottage Wreaths stamp set, and we're going to stamp that in Granny Apple Green. So I was wrong. We do need our Granny Apple Green again. And we're just going to stamp that on the inside at an angle. And I'm going to do actually the same thing on the envelope. So I'm going to bring that in too. On the front left bottom corner, we're going to stamp another one. I like everything to coordinate. And now we're done with our stamping of Granny Apple Green. All right, so we'll move that out of the way because next we need our Memento black ink, and I have a very tiny scrap of basic white. And we are going to stamp the bee that comes from the Splendid Thoughts stamp set. And he's a little guy, so we just need a little scrap. And now it's time to do some die cutting. So I'm going to cut out all 3 of these with the wreath die, with the bow die, and with this die from the Splendid Stems die set, plus the bee, which also, as I said, it comes from the Splendid Thoughts stamp set, and there is a matching die to cut it out. And I will be right back. Okay, and you'll see that I've also die cut the smallest, I think this is a eucalyptus leaf, but I think it looks like a flower, but the smallest die from the Splendid Stems die set. And I also cut some of these leaves, which come from the Cottage Wreath stamp set. And it's wonderful because they give you 4 that you can cut out at once. So there are 4 dies that are all the same to cut out this piece. and of course the bow and the bee. And I just wanted to show a couple of quick things. You'll see when you lay this die around that you can't see all of the letters. So you just center it and put it toward the top, and then you'll see that with the edges that are underneath what the die shows, all of the lettering will come out. So I don't want you to worry about that. All right, so for that wreath, when you open up your stamp set, you'll see there's a little carrot, a little arrow right there. And that is to help you to line up the wreath with the die. Now, you can do it without lining it up, but if you're concerned, you just need to pay attention to that. So I'm going to grab my block and we're going to put it there. And I know that that carrot is, and I should use a bigger block, but I'm not actually stamping. The carrot is down this way. So when I stamp, I'm going to be conscious of that. And actually, if I stamped it, it would be over here like that. Because then what you can do is when you take the die also has that same little carrot. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but that helps you to line it up. Now, I did this one without using the carrots to line it up, because you will reach a point where you can see that it's going to fit around exactly. So you can do it without lining it up, but if you're concerned, there is a way to do that. So now, whoops, now I've got my wreath and we're ready to put the rest of it together. So for the wreath, I decided that there's also a little tiny indent, I guess, on each side. And so I decided, and that's from the piece on the die that lines it up. So I decided I wanted to put my bow to cover up one of them. So I'm just going to use a glue dot for that. And next I'm going to lay the flowers. And I did put adhesive sheets on the back of the Granny Apple Green scrap and the Blushing Bride scrap before I cut them out. The leaves don't have, not everyone has that, but most of them do. So I'm going to take my Take Your Pick tool and take off the paper backing on each one and then lay them out. And I may end up snipping off that little end if it doesn't get covered by the leaves. And this one just had a little bit of paper on the end, so I'm going to put a little dab of glue to make sure that that stays secure on the card. And then the only other thing we have to do before we put everything together is color that little bee. And for that, I'm using my dark So Saffron blend, the narrow end, and just coloring it in on the body a little bit, because So Saffron is also the color of the DSP. And now it's just a matter of putting everything together. So I'm going to start with the wreath, and for that I'm going to use some dimensionals. And we'll just put a few on the back. Take the paper off, and then we'll adhere it to the card. A little bit up toward the top, because my idea is that I want the bee to hold the corner of the vellum down, but still look like it's getting ready to land on the wreath. And you can see I purposely went outside of the edges, and that way we can see some of the beautiful stamping inside. For the bee, I'm just going to use a glue dot, or maybe even two, to help secure that vellum. So we'll put one way on the end and then one toward the head, which normally I wouldn't use two, I would just use one, but I want to make sure it helps secure that vellum. And we're going to put the bee over here. And then of course our sentiment, and I'm just going to use my Stampin' seal for this. And again, this secures then the bottom right corner of the vellum. So the vellum is secure and we didn't have to use any glue. If you want to, you can pick up some of those little pieces, those 3D pieces, to make them a little more pronounced. You can also use take your pick tool for that. And then last but not least, we need some bling. And so for today's project, I'm using the Iridescent Pearls Basic Jewels. They're so pretty, they're so sparkly. I really like these as an embellishment. And so I started by putting a large one on the center of the wreath. And I used 5 because odd numbers are more pleasing, but I think I'm going to move them around and not have 2 together. I used the smaller ones for the rest because there are so many of them in the set. Put one down here in the white space, and maybe this time one up here, and one up here. And then for our last one, we'll put it down here. And so we still have our 5, and it draws your eye around the card. And that's it. That is our card for today. I hope you like it. Again, if you're interested in my bundle bonus offer, purchase the bundle from me. And remember, bundles are 10% off, 10% discount, and when you buy them as a bundle. And if you do that and purchase from me, I will send you the components to make this card. And as I said earlier, you can have it in either of the 2 colorways. So you can have it with the Blushing Bride, or you can have it with the Calypso Coral. Just let me know and I will do that for you. And actually, let me show you quickly what I used to make this card. So first of all, we have the Cottage Wreaths bundle, which is the Cottage Wreaths stamp set, and the Country Wreath dies. So again, you can see those leaves. There are 4 of them. So you can cut out 4 at once, which is nice. There are actually 2 of these that are the same, so you can cut out 2 of those wreaths at the same time. Some of the images, cut out some of these images as well. Wonderful set. So this is the bundle that I'm talking about, that if you purchase it at 10% off from me, I will send you the components to make one of these cards. I also used the Splendid Thoughts stamp set just to stamp the bee. And I used the die cut for the bee, and then this is the one that we used for the flowers on the front of the wreath. I used the wonderful Blossoming Happiness dies, this one to cut out in the vellum. And then the Threw It Together stamp set. Lots of wonderful sentiments, but I used Sending You This Paper Hug, which is probably my favorite one, but there are lots of wonderful sentiments in this set. And then last but not least, the Hive 3D embossing folder. Wonderful to add some texture and dimension to the card. Oh, and actually one more thing, how could I forget? So these are the Gingham Cottage Designer Series papers. You get 4 of each, and there are 24 designs. So obviously 12 for each side. And so you get a total of 48 sheets in that paper pack. So lots and lots to use to create more wonderful cards. So thanks so much for joining me. I really appreciate you watching. If you're interested in purchasing that bundle from me, reach out and I will post the host code as well to make it easier for you. If your order is under $150, if it's more than $150, then take the host rewards for yourself. Don't use the host code, but please designate me as your demonstrator if you would like me to send you the components for the card. Check out the rest of my videos. I do have many other cards, scrapbook pages, home decor items, tips and techniques, lots of paper pumpkin alternative videos. I try to do one every month, so there's a lot there for you to see. Leave me some love in the comments. I really, really appreciate positive comments, and I will see you again soon. Take care, everyone. Happy stamping.